Hello, everyone. This is Dan Gramza, and welcome to dangramza.com Market Studies for Monday, March 30th. Now, if you haven't seen these charts before, they're candle charts, daily charts, and the concept is a swing trade, which lasts 1 to 12 days. If you see the green line, that represents buy level, red line represents sell level, dashed line means that something had happened earlier in the week. Now, the geopolitical environment continues to put heat on this market. And if you look back over time here, and by the way, at dangramza.com, you can scroll back and you would see how these lines changed over time. And one of the things is that Fridays, this I think is the fifth Friday where we have not seen a positive close in the S&P. People are not willing to hold on to this market as we go into the weekend, which implies a lack of confidence. Now, to give you some references here, the dollar difference at sell to buy level in the S&P is $200 a contract. The dollar difference from this sell down to that buy level is $2,500 a contract. But I want to point out to you that if you look at this, on Friday it traded, you might not be able to see it, but just a little bit above that buy level, which would initiate a long position offsetting that short position, and the market crashed after that. So this buy level failed on Friday as the market traded above it with no follow through. And that's why risk management is always essential anytime you expose your money to risk, no matter what the market or what the trade. But here's an example where it failed in terms of behavior. Now there are new buy and sell levels in that market as we went over in the advanced video. Over in the NASDAQ, you see something very similar to what we were just talking about. The dollar difference buy to sell level here in that market was 27.60. The now the buy level's been lowered in this market as the market gets ready for Monday. And Monday, what do we look for? An inside day, possibly, unless we get new news over the weekend. In the Dow, a very interesting market, dollar difference sell to buy level in that market was $3,625 a contract. And this is also an example. Let me see if I can. There you go. This traded just above its buy level and it failed dramatically. So the long side failed, and risk management again is critical here. And it now has new buy and sell levels in that market. Over in the Russell, a very interesting market. It also traded above its sell level. The buy level's been lowered in this market. Dollar difference here, buy to sell level was $900 a contract. Again, we're seeing weakness going into the weekend. That lack of confidence. And over here in the euro, it stays weaker, which means the US dollar is getting stronger. And what we're also seeing is the dollar difference there at that buy to sell level, $125 a contract. Over in the Swissy, that dollar difference buy to sell level, $275 a contract. And the Swissy is also weaker going into the weekend. Our friend Mr. Yen, what do we see here? That difference between the dashed lines is $125 a contract. And it stayed weak against the US dollar. And this market is very cheap at these levels. Be careful if you're on the short side. The Aussie dollar, the dollar difference here, $140 a contract. And this market also backed off going into the weekend. Stronger US dollar. And the British pound, look at this one. It continued lower as well. The dollar difference up here in that market, just to give you a reference, is um, there it is, $181.25. But what do we look for here? Critical levels, as we talked about in the advanced video, but nothing telling us to be a buyer at the current levels. So far, everything, including our friends in Canada, are weak against the US dollar. In times of uncertainty, capital flows towards the dollar, and that's what we're seeing here in these markets. Bitcoin also weaker going into the weekend, but at critical levels and in the 10-year notes. The dollar difference here in that market, $625 a contract. That means yields are getting stronger. But towards the end of the day, price came back and yields went up, up and then down as we finished the day out. It implies buyers want to come in, but not so here in the bond market. Dollar difference, by the way, is $593.75, and we're seeing weakness. That means yields went up. But be careful here. It's cheap, and we might find some buyers coming up here next week. The difference in gold between the sell and buy levels is $5,600 a contract. This is also a market that wants to go higher, but we have not seen follow through. Look at silver. It's in the same boat. Dollar difference here is $20,200 a contract. And let's move this up a little bit so you can see it a little better. That popped up above its buy level. Dollar difference here in that market between these two lines is $1,700 a contract. It wants to go higher, but we just don't have the support to drive it. And that's true in copper. This is a market that's also struggling. China demand is not there. They consume almost 50% of the global supply of copper. They're missing. Dollar difference here, that sell to buy level, $6,500 a contract. Crude oil, well, as we went into the weekend, it firmed up a bit because people are saying, geez, what can we expect over the weekend? Who knows? And the dollar difference at sell to this buy level is $900 a contract. Does it have a strong reason to rally? I really don't think it does. Not at this point in terms of supply, but uncertainty, well, we have plenty of room to the upside if it's going to start moving. And over here in nat gas, the dollar difference in that market, $1,200 a contract. Again, buyers are here going into the weekend. I don't look for a big day up on Monday unless we get new news, which is very possible going over the weekend, coming out of the weekend. Beans backed off a bit, but don't look for a big day down in that market. And when it comes to corn, same thing. Weakness here, but don't look for a screamer lower unless we get something new. And in wheat, the dollar difference here is $150 a contract. Look for a sideways move in that market. Well, those are my thoughts for today. Thank you for joining me. Look forward to being with you again. In the meantime, take care.